We have a tradition in Judaism that when we tell stories, it should be an honor that men and women from around the world should find their soulmate, that they should find their besheret, and that they should live a meaningful lifestyle. So this story, as well as every other story that I say on here, should be in honor of that merit, that everyone finds their soulmate, their besheret. Without further ado, the story. There was once a very rich man by the name of Avigdor, and he came to the rabbi, the holy rabbi, the Baal Shem Tov. And Avigdor gave some money for charity. And the Baal Shem Tov said, "How could I repay you? Could I offer you with a blessing for your family, a blessing for anything?" And Avigdor said, "No, Rabbi, that's nice of you, but I have everything I need. I don't need a blessing." And the Baal Shem Tov said, "Are you sure you don't want a blessing for health, for just anything?" And Avigdor said, "No, Rabbi, I have everything I need in life. I don't want a blessing." So the Baal Shem Tov then said, "Avigdor, there's something that I want to ask of you. Can you do something for me?" And Avigdor is thinking to himself, what can I possibly do for the Baal Shem Tov? He's the holy rabbi. What can I do for him? But he said, if the rabbi is asking me to do something, I will do my best. Rabbi, what would you like me to do? So the Baal Shem Tov says, I'm about to write a letter to a man named Mr. Tzadok, who lives in the town of Brody, where you're from. And he's the head of the charity committee of your town. And I would like, if you could deliver this letter that I'm about to write, if you could deliver this letter to Mr. Tzadok when you get back to your town of Brody. So Avigdor says, of course, as soon as I go home, I will give this letter that you're going to write, and I will give it to this man, Mr. Tzadok. So the Baal Shem Tov takes out a piece of paper, and a pen, and he starts to write the letter. And he hands it to Avigdor, and they embrace each other, and Avigdor, he goes on his way. But in those days, it wasn't so simple to travel, and it took a long time to get home. And Avigdor, the whole time he's going home, he's not thinking about his encounter with the Baal Shem Tov, with the holy rabbi. He's thinking about all his businesses and all of his plans and money and all these other things. And by the time he gets home to the city of Brody, he forgot everything that he had talked to the Baal Shem Tov about. He forgot about the letter, to deliver the letter. 16 years passed. 16 years. And everything in Avigdor's life has changed. He was once rich, he is now poor. He once had a big, thriving company. He no longer has a big, thriving company. He once had plenty of food to eat. Now he's struggling to feed his family. And it gets so bad for Avigdor, that one day he says, it's so bad, I need to sell my clothes just to give my children food, just to give my wife food. So he's going through his closet, and he has all these expensive garments that he's collected throughout the years, and he sees a jacket that he hasn't worn in 16 years. And he sees, oh my gosh, this jacket, it's probably worth a lot of money. I need to sell this jacket so that I could put food on the table for my family. And as he's taking out the jacket, he sees that there's an envelope from the Baal Shem Tov from 16 years earlier. And he remembers, oh my gosh, I was supposed to deliver this to a man named Mr. Tzadok, who was the head of the charity committee, 16 years ago, and I completely forgot. What am I supposed to do? So he takes the letter, and he runs out into the street, and he's yelling, does anybody know Mr. Tzadok? I need to find him. Everyone's like, what are you talking about? Who is this? And he's like, he's the head of the charity committee. He's the head of the charity committee of our town. And everyone's like, what are you talking about, Avigdor? And finally he finds a man who says, Mr. Tzadok, the head of the charity committee, our town never had a charity committee until today. And Avigdor is thinking to himself, that's not possible. I got this letter from the Baal Shem Tov 16 years ago. He wrote this letter, and I was supposed to deliver it 16 years ago. And he told me to deliver it to a man named Mr. Tzadok, the head of the charity committee. You're telling me that Mr. Tzadok was just elected head of the charity committee today? And the man goes, yeah. And Avigdor's like, that doesn't make any sense. So Avigdor, he's like, okay, I don't understand what's going on. Just where can I find Mr. Tzadok? So he says, go to the synagogue. He's in the back of the synagogue. You'll find him there. So Avigdor continues running, and he goes to the back of the synagogue, and he finds Mr. Tzadok. And he says, Mr. Tzadok, is it true that you were just elected head of the charity committee today? Mr. Tzadok says, yes. They took a vote, and our city decided that we needed a charity committee, that it's important to give charity and to help other people, and they voted me to be in charge. And Avigdor tells him the whole story about how he has this letter that 16 years earlier the Baal Shem Tov wrote. And both men are so confused. How could it be 16 years earlier? So together they decide that they're going to open the letter that the Baal Shem Tov wrote 16 years earlier. And this is what the letter says. Dear Mr. Tzadok, you are now standing with a man named Avigdor. Once upon a time, he was a very, very wealthy man, a very successful man, and he had everything that he ever wanted. But now, Avigdor is very poor, and he has to even sell his clothing just to put food on the table for his family. Because you were elected head of the charity committee of Brody today, I ask you to please help Avigdor. And once again, he will become a very wealthy man. But this time, he will learn his lesson that when a rabbi offers him a blessing, that he will accept the blessing. And he will understand that anything in life can always change very quickly. And that it's very important to thank God, to thank Hashem for all the blessings that we have. In case you doubt any of my words to be true, your wife is pregnant and she's expecting a baby boy. And right now, she's about to give birth. And that was the end of the letter. And just as Avigdor and Mr. Tzadok finish the letter and seal it up, there's a knock on the door of a guy banging. And he says, Mazel Tov, congratulations, Mr. Tzadok. Your wife just gave birth to a baby boy. And that's the end of the story. So the Baal Shem Tov knew that Avigdor was going to forget to give this letter for 16 years, and that this man, Mr. Tzadok, would be elected head of the charity committee, and that he would help Avigdor on his life to once again become a very successful businessman and to help his family, but this time to remember that anything can be taken from us in the blink of an eye, and that we always need to accept blessings and to serve God with as much joy, to serve Hashem with as much joy and happiness and love as possible.